Hit the subscribe button, guys, for the latest in boxing and raw boxing opinions. And if you want to show support to the channel, there's our Patreon link down in the description below. So I'm going to be quoting Mr. Eddie Hearn, and he's talking about the ticket sales, about Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin's ticket sales. The only thing that aggravates me is that anyone in boxing I have spoken to says it's a tough fight. But the man on the street goes to me and says, when's the Deontay Wilder fight? I say he has to get through Povetkin first, and then they tell me he'll knock him out. Who knows? If Povetkin had come over and tried to nut Joshua at the press conference, we would have sold out immediately. Instead, there are a lot of people saying, I will come in April for the Wilder fight. So that is what Eddie Hearn had to say. He also says that he expects 80,000 people to show up at Wembley. Now, of course, as we know, the last time Joshua fought at Wembley, he sold out 90,000 tickets, right? So if Eddie Hearn's estimation is right, that means there's going to be 10,000 people less to show up to watch Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin. Now, Eddie Hearn said some interesting things here. He said that people have been telling him, boxing fans on the streets have been telling him that they will rather see, they're waiting for April because they expect Anthony Joshua to be fighting, because obviously Anthony Joshua already has another fight lined up for April of 2019. So he's saying, when he's talking to the people, like, I guess, the people in boxing, boxing journalists, I guess, other promoters, they're saying that this is a tough fight for Joshua. But if he's in the street and he runs into a boxing fan, they always ask him about Deontay Wilder. So he's saying that there's more people interested in watching Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder than Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin. And I guess he's talking about the boxing fan, us, the hardcore boxing fans, because every time he gets approached by a boxing fan, and I guess on the streets, they ask him about Wilder. When is he gonna fight Wilder? We want to see Anthony Joshua knock out Deontay Wilder, right? And of course that makes sense. I already said in the past that that everybody wants to see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. But again, it's not Anthony Joshua's fault that Wilder doesn't want to fight him. He's the one who turned this fight down. Now, when it comes to the whole, ticket sale things, he says that Alexander Povetkin should have, had Alexander Povetkin confronted or, done something, outrageous or something crazy in the press conference, maybe, they would have sold out immediately. But obviously, when it comes to Anthony Joshua and Alexander Povetkin, they're both, professionals. They're not like, they've never been guys who trash talk to sell fights. Dillian White would have been great for that type of, trash talk. Even Deontay Wilder, Tyson, guys like Deontay Wilder, Dillian White, Tyson Fury, these three guys have one thing in common. They know how to sell fights. They know how to talk trash. They would have sold out, like Eddie Hearn says. Had they gone to the press conference, they would have been talking trash. People would have immediately been, happy to see that, and it would have motivated them to want to see the fight a lot more. Now, obviously, guys, when it comes to me, you guys know how I feel about ticket sales. Eddie Hearn estimates that maybe 80,000 people will pay to watch, buy a ticket to watch, or I guess to go to Wembley and watch it, right, live. Again, when it comes to me, I'm not a boxing fan who cares about ticket sales, because ticket sales mean nothing to me. What does ticket sales mean to me? All I care about is boxers and fighters fighting legit opposition. The only one who should really care about ticket sales is the promoter, because he's the one who gets money. The more tickets he sells, the more money he makes. And the same thing for the boxer. The more tickets they sell, the more money they make. Again, 80,000 people is still a lot of people. Compared to someone like Wilder, when have you ever heard Wilder sell out an arena, 80,000 tickets in an arena? That doesn't happen. Wilder has never even sold out 20,000 tickets in an arena. So to me, that's still really good. But obviously, it just goes to show you that people would rather see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. That's why I keep saying, people say that Tyson. I've seen some people say Tyson Fury versus Wilder is bigger than Anthony Joshua versus Wilder. No, it's not. Fury is not versus Wilder is not bigger because Fury has been so inactive and irrelevant that he kind of fell off. You know, when you stay irrelevant in boxing, boxing fans tend to forget about you. You know, they still recognize you, but you fall off. You know, that's why you gotta be consistent. You gotta be relevant in boxing. So when it comes to AJ and Deontay Wilder, they've both been relevant, right? And many people believe that Anthony Joshua is the real champion, like I do. And then there's some people who believe that Deontay Wilder is the true champion with his WBC belt. So they want to see them fight off. You know, they're both undefeated. They're both young. They're both big punchers. This intrigues boxing fans. Boxing fans like seeing two young, undefeated fighters who are big punchers, you know, massive punchers, collide, because that has, you know, knockout rating all over it. You know, that's what they expect. They expect these two guys to knock each other out. And they want to see an undisputed heavyweight at heavyweight. They want an undisputed champion at heavyweight. So these two guys have to fight. You know, Anthony Joshua has been saying that he wants to fight. You know, it would be wrong if he didn't fight Deontay Wilder because he's in the same area as him. You get what I'm saying? Every article I read of Anthony Joshua, he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. I've not come across an article, you know, people love to say Anthony Joshua's ducking Wilder, but I've not come across an article that I see Anthony Joshua saying, I want no parts of Deontay Wilder. I've not read that article yet, so I don't know what the hell people are talking about. You know, when it comes to me, I'm all about seeing what fighters do to make me believe if these guys are ducking or not. And when it comes to Joshua, he's always proven to me that he's willing to fight stiff and top quality competition. And this is why I don't believe that he's ducking. But when it comes to Wilder, it's different. You know, Wilder has proved to me that he's ducked fighters. You know, he ducked Vladimir Klitschko. These are facts. He wanted no parts of Dillian White. These are facts. And he's been doing this. He's been showing the same signs with Anthony Joshua. This is why it's a lot more easier when I'm just looking at the history of both Anthony Joshua and Wilder. It's a lot more easier for me to point at Wilder and look at him as a ducker because he has history of ducking in the past. Right? This is a guy who, you know, had very easy and a very easy upcoming in boxing. Right? He wasn't thrown in there against the lions for, you know, until his 40th fight. Like Luis Ortiz is considered his best win. And if that's the case, it took him 10 years and 40 fights to do that. You look at Anthony Joshua in his third year, fourth year as a professional, he was in there with a pound, you know, long reigning pound for pound #1 heavyweight in Vladimir Klitschko. He was fighting guys like Dillian White, Joseph Parker, 4 years into his career. So yeah, it took someone like Deontay Wilder, and like I said, 20 fights and 4 years into his career, AJ. When you compare that to, you know, Wilder, 10 years, it took him 10 years and 40 fights to step in the ring with someone like Luis Ortiz, who's not even in the same level as Vladimir. He's actually below Vladimir Klitschko. Matter of fact, Deontay Wilder still has not fought somebody like a Vladimir Klitschko. He hasn't. And that's really sad and pathetic, considering the fact that he has 40 plus fights and he's been a pro for 10 years. And you compare that to Joshua, who he stepped into the ring against someone like Vladimir 3.5 years and 19 fights into his career. So there's no comparison. That's why I always, it's very easy for me to see who's the true ducker, you know. And that's why it's funny to me when I see people say, you know, Joshua's the one avoiding Deontay Wilder. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say, and thanks for watching. Once again, if you watched the video from start to finish, much appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description of my Patreon. You could become a Patreon of mine on Patreon. And yes, support the channel because, you know, I don't make no money off YouTube. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.